Hi, I'm John Nature. I'm in Georgia, the state for lovers. In the brand new 2022 Macan S, it's been updated, so let's cover it briefly. The front has had a remarkable change. The bumper, the grille, the entire front end. The back end has also been updated to align the tail lights and all of the features that are now being introduced in the other Porsche products like the Cayenne. It just looks more cohesive. Again, it's updated, it's not all new. But what's fresher is the interior space. It takes you forward. It feels like a more modern Porsche experience. It gets rid of most of the physical controls in favor of these haptic or touch-sensitive buttons that are hidden beneath a layer of piano gloss plastic. And Piano Black Jack had said that his stocks have gone up so much. The industry demand for this material has gone through the roof. Therefore, his bullion count has increased by 3,000%. But when you're using it every day, it does have a high wow factor. And I'm the first to say it looks far less cluttered than the previous generation product. Now, there are physical controls here, thank God, for certain things like volume and tuning. And you can actually use the infotainment with the tuning knob. The shifter is still mechanical. And the temperature controls or the fan speed controls are also mechanical. Now on the steering wheel, depends on what trim you get, but you do have a drive mode selector here, which is super easy to select, and all the great Porsche things in terms of the ergonomic simplicity that is throughout this cabin has just tickled me pink. Now, the luxury features are, take a look at these sports seats. There's so many adjustments on here that I literally blacked out trying to adjust the seats. And they are remarkably comfortable. And they're more comfortable than what you find in something like the 718 sports seats. The bolstering is great, but it doesn't feel like I'm getting a kidney punch in them either. It's just this whole cabin and whole product is about balance. And I think they did a really good job here. For the people that are really looking for this, you're gonna enjoy it. Now the audio system is a generic Bose, and you know, we've done some audio tests on this in the past, and it's average. The infotainment updates are great. There is different things and different ways that you can interact with it and change the layout of the panels and move them around and customize it. But that's stuff that we've seen in previous Porsche products. The big thing here is the back seat room. This is a smaller cabin, and when you look at the trunk, I could barely fit 2 full-size luggages back there. So out of any negative part about the Macan is its space. Back seat and cargo area, that's something you have to look at in person or compare the cargo capacity with other products in this price range. But let's head out on the road and see how this thing drives. I like my CUVs to be like sports cars, Jack.
That's what you're getting. Macan S, new engine, some packaging refreshes as we already talked about, and interior and exterior refinements or improvements depending on how you look at this. And what you still end up with is one of the, or probably the best driving CUV SUV on the market. If you can afford the pretty penny that this thing comes in, you are going to be floored by this thing. I know I'm John Porsche, the guy who would probably, if you put a Porsche badge in a dumpster, tell you how amazing it is. But what do you think? You're not a Porsche guy like I am.
So you know I have a fundamental problem with this, and it's mostly revolves around the fact that it costs way too much money. However, there are some interesting facts that I learned about this car from our Porsche reps, and 2 things are: this has the highest female demographic of any Porsche product at 35% buy-in, and the income, the household income bracket for people that buy this is way higher than I thought. What is it?
$440,000. So
put that in perspective. If you have that type of income and you want the absolute best vehicle that you can get for this size, there is absolutely no question, and I will never argue it. This has the best automatic transmission, it has the best engine performance, and most importantly, it has the best handling by a long stretch.
And unlike a BMW, it doesn't pound the hell out of your spine. It rides properly in normal mode. This has PASM as standard. This has the optional air ride, and when you combine the both of them, this car is super soft, super compliant, quiet, and then on a back road, it gives it hot hatch-like dynamics.
This is more of a hot hatch. When you think about, well, what is this CUV? Because there's not a lot of space in here. You're heavily compromised in backseat and cargo capacity, and we talked about that on the interior. But the big problem for me is that. But when you look at it more like a Golf R and some of the previous hatchbacks.
Or you're a bachelor, you don't have kids, or just you and your significant other, wife or husband, this makes it, it's totally fine.
It's totally doable, and you just have to know going in that this is not a big product, but it performs, and I say this a lot, this is a textbook example of how you set up a suspension, steering and brakes and engine tuning. This is like, it feels like you're driving a legitimate bona fide sports car. And I'm not kidding. Everything is great. And on normal pavement, and this is one of my big complaints about sports cars and these sporty products, they try to set up the suspension where you're like, everything's got to be over-tuned and like over-twitchy. This has all the performance without doing that. So when you're just driving around in comfort mode, when you're stuck in traffic or in a grind.
What you do in most cars.
Yes, when you're in 95% of your daily commute, it is so quiet, so refined, and so soft. And when you want to drive it like a monkey or a dickhead, this thing is flying. I mean, it's got to be one of the best dual personalities that way. I mean, don't expect...
this isn't the numbers of an X3M or the numbers of like a Trackhawk, but you get a complete package here.
A complete package, and I will say that Porsche did an amazing job setting this up. They know who's buying it, and if you have that money where you're just going to obliterate $85,000 to $100,000 on a well-equipped one, you are going to be so grateful that you bought this. It really is. There's no buyer's remorse in this at all, and that's where I'm going to leave my...
I think if you're going to use this as a daily driver, again, getting over the space part, from a usability perspective, it gets reasonable fuel economy. Even though it's a dual clutch, there are no real cons in the way they set it up with chugging and weirdness. This engine, the 2.9 liter that is also found on the GTS, just in a lesser tune in this state, has a ton of usable torque down low, and it still feels like, despite being a VW Audi group engine, it still feels like a Porsche product. It sounds like a Porsche. It wants to wind out. It has some of the best engine tuning and power delivery you're going to find in this segment. So if you value that and you're willing to make the compromises, why not?
Absolutely. So I think it's a good time, Jack, to talk about what were the changes made to this? Like, what are the fundamental changes to the update? Because this is not a completely new car. No. It's facelifted, so new front and rear fascias or bumpers and bumpers on the front and back, and then the interior's been redone, which we talked about on the interior part. But what's the mechanical stuff?
So the old 3-liter with a single turbo from the regular Macan S is no more. Okay. This gets the 2.9 liter, I believe it's a twin turbo, which is found in the prior generation GTS and turbo. That's what now comes standard on the S. The S also now comes standard with adaptive dampers, PASM, so you get that when you buy into the S.
So when you change your drive modes, it's changing your suspension setup, firm or soft, and it also is able to read ahead as a part of that, looking at the mapping software to see what's coming up. If you're coming up on a corner via GPS, it knows and it can adjust the dampers and read ahead that way.
Yeah. The turbo model for the Macan is no more. The GTS replaces that. The GTS gets a nice power bump and some more standard features. That's the advantage of that. The 4-popper, the base Macan, is largely the same, though it does get a slight horsepower increase, and there are some differences in packaging. The primary difference from a mechanical perspective on the exteriors, every car gets an increase in wheel size. They all go up by 1 inch.
Yeah, okay.
So the prior generation Macan S had 19s, now it has 20s. They've also done the appropriate suspension updates in tuning software, to deal with the increase in wheel size. But past that, mechanically, go watch your other billion videos in Macans.
Yeah.
It's the same factory, all the same mechanical improvements you get over some of the other products from this MLB Evo platform family from Audi and VW.
All right, Jack, let's head into the final thoughts and we'll sum all this up.
All right.
Final thoughts on the updated Macan. And we were at a launch event, so we didn't get a ton of time with this product and we didn't get it up in there. But luckily for you, we've already done a video on the Macan, and the underbody and the mechanical stuff have not changed, so check out that video. The main updates were to the exterior and the interior to bring a level of cohesion from the aging Macan to the next generation products. So what you have is the bumpers, the face of the car, the rear looks different, the taillights. And again, this is really going to be on you whether you like it. I've heard some complaints saying it's not as timeless. Others like say it looks way better and whatever. The interior space is the main thing. They have brought it into the next generation design in terms of infotainment, and they've also updated the center stack and got rid of all the physical controls that were littered throughout, and they've tried to find a balance between the haptic touch interface and physical buttons and knobs, and I feel like it's elegant. The other part is the infotainment screen is built into the dashboard, unlike some of the value brands that are like, well, we can't figure out the dash architecture and we know we're going to change it, let's stick a screen on top of the dash. They didn't do that here, and the interior looks much cleaner for it. Now the problem is when you remove the physical controls for the haptic stuff, you have this kind of single membrane. It's easily scratched, it gets dirty quickly, and it's a little bit more finicky, but it does look better. There's less clutter, and that's what they're going for. They're trying to clean up the interior space. The seats are absolutely amazing in this car. It's some of the best Porsche seats with the upgraded multi-adjustment choice that you can choose. And overall, it's a quiet, comfortable, and solid riding product. It's one of the best riding SUVs and handling SUVs that you can buy, and that's clearly why Porsche sells so many of these. The space is my only big problem with this. We had 2 full-size luggages. It didn't fit in the hatch without putting the seats down, so it is compromised. Like we said in the drive, it's like a hot hatch. It really is. If you look at it that way on stilts, it has the all-wheel drive capability. It has the amazing cornering and handling capability. It has an amazing automatic transmission. The PDK in here is marvelous, and the engine tuning is top notch. So there's not a lot to complain about other than, well, interior dimensions and of course price. But as Porsche explained to us, the buyers of this have a lot of disposable income, and they pretty much want more than just the badge. They want kind of the best that's out there. And in this size and package, they do it amazing. And you may value that and you may not. But we're going to get more into this product once we get it in our hands in the future. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.